The kettlebell swing, the most important thing is to match the hinge with that extension of the bell. So let's not worry so much about how high that bell goes. The main purpose is to load the hinge and get into that hip extension at the top of the position as explosively as possible. So the best cue you can think of is standing up tall as you can, as fast as you can. When you stand up tall, that's gonna help you engage your entire core as you get into that posterior tilt so you can engage your glutes and engage your hamstrings, engage your anterior core. Everything is gonna be nice and tight. So that way, as you go back into the hinge, we can avoid loading the lower back as much as possible. With the alternating Deadstart rotational clean and press, you're gonna perform a Deadstart rotational clean on one side. So you're gonna cross your midline, you're gonna pivot on that back foot. As you pull, you're going to rotate forcefully into a square position. Once you've gotten to that rack position, you're gonna press. After you've performed the press, you're gonna bring that bell straight down in line with that shoulder on the inside of the foot. This is gonna give you the clearance to be able to grab the bell with your other hand, perform a Deadstart rotational clean, press, and repeat. So you wanna make sure you're maintaining that intra-abdominal tension as you hinge and rotate so that we don't flex at the same time. With the Goblet Squat, you're gonna wanna get into a slightly wider than hip width stance to externally rotate your feet just a little bit so that way, as you come down, that's gonna open up the hips. So as you come down, you wanna make sure your knees are coming out over your toes. As you're holding onto the kettlebell by the horns, you're going to pull your shoulders back, depress your shoulder blades, and try to keep as tight a torso as possible. Make sure you keep as long a spine as possible so that you don't flex under the pressure of the weight, so increase that intra-abdominal tension. The alternating press is gonna be a movement that we're gonna be working unilaterally, so one side at a time. The way we're gonna connect the sides is with a two-hand cheek curl clean. So we wanna use a little momentum just to bring that weight up to one side to the rack position, and then back to the other side after we've completed the press. This is a great exercise for full upper body strength as well as core strength because we're working one side at a time, so it's a great way to weed out weaknesses. Make sure that when you're pressing, you don't overextend at that top position, so maintain that core tension. If you don't have requisite mobility, then go to half range of motion while still maintaining that depressed shoulder.
The kettlebell bent over row is going to be done in a hinge position, so think about bringing your sit bones to the wall behind you. And the bent over row, you're going to end up in a similar position as the floor press, but the weight is going to be pulling opposite. So you're going to be working the upper back muscles and primarily the lat muscle. To do that, try to keep your elbows in tight to your side and think about pulling your hands or pulling the kettlebells towards the pockets or your hips. And this will ensure that the load is going into the lat as well as the upper back. And then you're going to come arms fully extended again. If you have any undue strain or pain in your lower back, don't bend down as far. You don't have to hinge down as far. You can do a half hinge and still do a bent over row. One of my favorite and most simple movements to do with the kettlebell, you're holding those kettlebells down at your sides with your arms fully extended, and then you're walking. You can walk forward, you can march in place, you can walk backward, you can walk laterally, you can do any sort of movement, or you could just stand there in a suitcase type carry position or farmer carry position. Just standing there holding those kettlebells is going to work on grip, it's going to work on vertical core integrity, shoulder engagement. Think about keeping your shoulders down and back and your chest nice and proud, your spine nice and long out the top of your head with your head up, crown of the head driving towards the ceiling and eyes forward. Think about doing the traditional clean technique, but with the alternating clean, you're going to be cleaning up on the one side. So think about it swinging up, you're rowing that kettlebell in, that's accelerating the movement, and then you're dipping your elbow underneath the kettlebell and then having that kettlebell land softly into the rack position. If you're banging your wrists, typically means the kettlebell is going far out in front of you, or you're swinging that kettlebell up way too high and then trying to bring it into the rack position. So think less is more. Once you do it on the one side, then you come down, you swing, you hand it off to the other hand, and then you commence that clean technique on the other side. You're going to be holding with the kettlebell on top of the forearm and then the handles around your hands, and then you're overhead pressing. So think about holding those kettlebells in a rack position, and then you're going to sort of bring your elbows out, open up your chest, bring those shoulders down and back, think proud chest, and squeeze the scapula or the shoulder blades in the back together. As you do that, that creates a strong, stable surface. If you need to, you can bend the knees a little bit, bend the hips a little bit, engage the abs. You want strong vertical core and a strong, stable lower body as you then press those kettlebells up overhead. You're gonna press fully extended and then come all the way back down to that rack position. Think about it as a hinge movement where you're pressing your sit bones to the wall behind you. As you press the sit bones to the wall behind you, inevitably, the weight is gonna drop in front of your legs. As long as you keep strong integrity and vertical integrity with your core. So think about engaging your six-pack abs, engaging your upper back, shoulders down and back in a proud chest-like position. As you bring those sit bones back, go as far back as you can. That's when you can start to bend at the knee to continue that deadlift, to bring those weights further towards the ground. And then you're gonna come out of that flexion position into a fully extended position, back up to standing. The kettlebell floor press will be done obviously laying on the ground, and you're gonna be holding the kettlebells. The kettlebell will be slightly pressing on the forearm. So it will be important for you to have proper insertion in the kettlebell handle so that it's resting on your forearm in a comfortable fashion. If it's uncomfortable, feel free to get kettlebell guards or sweatbands for the wrist as a slight padding for the kettlebell to rest on. A lot of people are adamantly against the wrist guard, but if it is going to help you improve your strength by continuing to do kettlebell work, absolutely get it. So the floor press, you're pressing just like a bench press. You're lying on your back, elbows at a 45-degree angle, and you're going to be pressing up to full lockout and then coming all the way back.